30 years ago, this was the reality in Katowice. Heavy industry and mining defined the whole region, and its capital was said to be the least friendly for living. When we regained freedom in 1989, a lack of technology, know-how or capital was not a barrier to overcome, and anything was possible. We believed in our city and we wanted to change it. After 30 years, we can proudly say that the mission has been successful. But it's not over yet. Today, because of cooperation and involvement of the inhabitants, Katowice is a dynamically developing industrial, academic and cultural hub. The enormous changes are symbolized by the Culture Zone, a venue of the 11th edition of the World Urban Forum, which was built within a former coal mine. Today it hosts international meetings and conferences and art and culture, exhibited 14 meters below the surface. In Katowice, we understand the importance of our city developing sustainably. The city is known for being part of the nature-based solutions. It is one of the greenest cities in Poland. Forests and greenbelts constitute more than 50% of its area. Numerous parks and garden squares are revitalized like a former mining housing estate, Nikiszowiec, and they make the city more inhabitants-friendly. Many large investments and ecological developments have improved the air quality and increased energy security. But more importantly, ecological ideas were adopted by the inhabitants, who use the ecological municipal transport more frequently. The transformation process did not eliminate the industry completely, but has changed its face. Katowice and its whole region are still a strong industry hub, but today it's focused on high technology, like the cluster of Silesia Automotive and Advanced Manufacturing under the Katowice Special Economic Zone, which is a pioneer of innovative motorization. More than 30 years ago, the very first Polish heart transplants took place in our clinic, led by Zbigniew Religa. The clinic retains a world level, where 2 years ago a team led by Professor Zembala conducted a successful artificial heart operation. Katowice's heart-shaped logo combines two faces of the city, the traditional with the industrial heritage and the modern, creative and economically strong. As the largest center of the region, Katowice became the leader in metropolitan cooperation. This resulted in the establishment of the first and only metropolitan union in Poland. We are organizing the 11th edition of the World Urban Forum in order to share our experience. We believe that it may be helpful for other cities and regions which struggle with their industrial past. Our expertise can benefit them in search for solutions that ensure both sustainable development and care for inhabitants, tradition and culture.
Dear friends and partners from URBACT, on behalf of Mayor of City of Katowice, Mr. Marcin Krupa, and the Institution of Culture Katowice City of Gardens, allow me to express my gratitude for having the opportunity of cooperating with all of you within URBACT Cities Transfer Network. During those 3 years, we've been privileged to profit from impressive experience of our partners in the network. It was a period of intense work. We've learned a lot from you, and we hope that we've also contributed to the network. For Katowice, a UNESCO City of Music, the project URBACT OnStage, Music Schools for Social Change, has a significant role. One of our objectives is to foster a social inclusion through music and musical education. Creating 2 school brass orchestras is a first step to extend the project on as many schools as possible and give the young generation a great opportunity to develop themselves and to develop their relations thanks to the music. The experience we've gained, thanks to the URBACT, will be the part of a very important document for the city of Katowice, our Strategy of Cultural Development 2030. Once again, I would like to thank you for those fruitful years. I hope that we will be able to meet again soon in Katowice.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third session of OnStage Grand Finale. This is the Square, the place where the gondolas are built. It's the last one existing in Venice. it takes the right skills and tools to build the perfect gondola. So it happens to be the same when operating music and performing arts education for social change. If you are familiar with the concept of organizational and behavioral science, you're also familiar with the terms organizational, material, and human resources. All have been a topic of transfer in OnStage. The human part is especially crucial. The OnStage methodology to transfer skills and tools has given a lot of space to this aspect for social change. Lars Ole Vestergaard, the director of Aarhus Music School, will collect the voices of the OnStage people who have been directly involved in the transfer of these tools and skills. The first is the teachers' mobilities, immersive experiences into the EMMCA, Grigny, Aarhus and Adelphia music education systems. The second is the transfer demos, small-scale actions carried out to test transferability and to adapt the EMMCA good practice to the local context. Let's welcome them on stage.
We practice, therefore we are. We, the practitioners, co-create artistic and cultural opportunities to improve and find common ground based on a growth mindset and in constant present dialogue with the surroundings. Contribute with new perspectives, dedication and relevant know-how. Build coherence and cohesion and involve our practice through interaction with the others. Accompany all safely and full of empathy. Pursue a rich intercultural and nuanced agenda, both profound and challenging, with endless possibility to participation and contribution from all.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the welcome, Sandra, and for the nice videos from Katowice. It was wonderful to see the city again. You know, everybody, that changes has to be done in many levels. We were so lucky to be invited as partners together with L'Hospitalet and to develop this project together with them. And it's always interesting to be invited and selected to be some of those who can maybe form the future. But of course, a lot of things goes on. We heard the politicians yesterday, and it was of course very interesting and very supportive for the project. And we have had a lot of meetings with the leaders and the organizers and trying to find ways to collaborate. And it has been very exciting. But in every change, somebody has to do the hard work, and that is the practitioners. We need to have someone that can make the changes in the field together with the children. It's not enough just to have political support. It's very important, and we appreciate that. And it's not enough to have a good organization, but we have to have those who really can do the job with the children and in the daily life. They need to have the courage. They need to have the ideas, and they need to come and look, to get inspired, to translate and to share and to work together. And this has been a very important part of this wonderful project, that we had the opportunity to send teachers around to meet each other, to work together, to see each other work with the social inclusion with the children. So, of course, the COVID-19 has been a kind of troublemaker for our travels around in the world, but luckily we had some visitors in the beginning and the middle of the project. And today we are together with some of those who really got inspired by traveling through Europe and to meet some of the other persons in the project. Together with us, we have Diana Franov from EMMCA, we have Enrique Aragonés from EMMCA, we have Gunhild Bagterida from Aarhus Music School, we have Kirsten from Aarhus Music School. And they have been together and working with sharing and watching and having a lot of fun together in the spirit of learning from each other and to bring the project around into Europe and to get new ways of work. So I'm proud to give the word to these wonderful persons who can tell more about what was their impression and their ideas and what they can work with now after sharing experiences together. I don't know, we haven't made the speech row, but I think Diana, would you like to start the speech and tell about what you have been inspiring and what you have been seeing during the project?
Hello.
You're welcome.
Hi, good morning, Lars. Good morning, Gunhild, and everyone up there in Aarhus. Hi, everyone. Actually, I would like to give the word to my colleague, Enrique. So that's how we prepared it. So he's starting with the topic about mobilities and how we organize them. And later on, I will
we kind of prepared this way because I wanted to share with all the audience an overview of how and why we organize these mobilities. And Lars Ole was already stressing this idea, this importance of the people who actually work on music education, on our daily job on making these projects reality. And just to explain, since the very first moment we planned how this exchange and learning process was going to be developed, we thought it was important that the practitioners had a specific part for them to visit and to know other cities. And so in parallel with the transnational meetings that were organized, we also organized mobilities for teachers. And we decided to have three kinds of mobilities. A first one in L'Hospitalet to deep dive into the good practice for professionals from all the cities, from all the other cities in the network. Another kind of mobilities similar to that in L'Hospitalet, to the other cities that already had some kind of institution or organization for music education, and I had the opportunity to visit Aarhus in this kind of mobility. And the third one, the opportunity for professionals from L'Hospitalet to share into other cities our good practice. So to explain to the professionals that were newly involved in this kind of projects our experience, and hoping that this could be useful for them. And now I think Diana can share our experience, especially hosting this first mobility.
Yeah, this first kind of mobility, the one and only deep dive into the good practice. It was the first meeting of all the teachers together from all over the place, all over the cities of the network. We organized a whole week full of visits from 9 to 9, from sun to sun, as we say here. All the teachers could see both lessons in EMMCA's headquarters building and the primary schools where we develop our activities that are nowadays, I think, more than 12 schools and other agents on the city involved. So, and a week can be very long, and days were very, very long, but not enough, I think, because EMMCA is such a big project, and it's not easy in a week to be able to understand, to have foreseen sides of the whole thing. So to be able to collect all the information, all the observations, all the ideas, opinions, questions, or doubts that all the visitors could have during the visits. Of course, they could ask any teacher at any time something, but we asked them to fill a formula where the several categories of ideas or things that I would never do in my context. Things I think it would be very useful to do. Things I don't quite understand, why do they do this like this. And during this week, they collected so much of this that at the end of the week, we could fill a big wall of post-its with these several different observations and questions that were so useful for the rest of the visitors and also for us. That made it like a bit more tangible of how this visit can be useful. If you write it down, you put it together, you make a conclusion, it's so much useful that only go and getting involved on the vibe, which is, of course, what we all were wanting to do. No? We were also very surprised of how our colleagues or teachers, that it can be more, almost 60 teachers nowadays in the EMMCA, all the ones that were visited by this group of teachers could explain very well how that concrete detailed activity were related to the EMMCA main objectives in terms of social cohesion and involving different parts of the city. That was very also rewarding from us, because the more you teach, the more you explain what you do, the more you learn about it, and we could see that our colleagues were also learning a lot about it. That was very, very nice.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a better awareness of what we are doing there through explaining it. And I have to say, this that Diana was referring for the mobility in L'Hospitalet, this way of capturing knowledge. We piloted this in the visit in L'Hospitalet, and Aarhus colleagues and also Adelphia colleagues and Grigny colleagues, which are the 3 cities that we also visited, they used the same system. So we have 4 products of these 4 mobilities that look similar and that were made in a similar way. And I think it's interesting to compare, to have all these organized and capture and detailed knowledge and learnings from these mobilities. And this helped, as Diana said, that the learning was multidirectional. I wouldn't say I just learned myself when I visited Aarhus. I hope they learned too through showing their job, as we did in L'Hospitalet, showing you our job. And I think this is one of the ideas of URBACT methodology. It's not just a leader that is teaching others, but a multi-level, multi-directional exchange and learning. And I think we were successful on designing a mobility methodology that really fit this idea of the URBACT methodology. And I think we all agreed, all the teachers that visited other cities, that we needed to be there. That it's not the same if you receive a video or just a plain explanation, but a deep dive and understanding the context, being there, sharing formal and informal spaces and times with the other teachers. I think, and I think we have to say it without any shame, sharing informal spaces with other cities colleagues is a space for learning too, not only the organized learning activities, training sessions. But then I think the other commitment that we had was to share these learnings with our colleagues home. So as Diana said, we are almost 60 teachers, and I think maybe 10 or 12 of us actually visited other cities. Most part of the teachers didn't visit other cities. So sharing what we saw, what we learned with our colleagues, going back home and making this benefit shared with all our own community, it was a challenge, and we tried to do it in our teachers meeting and in our daily job. And I'm sure we were talking about this before with Diana. I'm sure it's kind of a seed. I think there are direct impacts that we could name and identify directly because of the mobilities, but I think there will be new ideas or new devices or new experiences that will flourish later from this seed that we still don't know. But I'm sure these mobilities will definitely have an impact on our projects next years.
Very well. Yeah, the third kind of mobility that we actually did was made once. It was with these cities that want to build up a institution that collects this model and is able to make it happen, to make it possible, to make it a reality in their primary schools. That was Katowice and Brno. Brno has already, as we all know, a activity in some primary schools that they want to develop, to make it grow, to make it bigger. So with the three meetings met in Katowice in September 2019, and we dedicated 2 days. One day was to learn and how we do things in EMMCA in very, very detailed, very concrete. All the questions they asked, we took the time to answer it all, to make it ourselves very clear how we do and how we don't do certain things. We saw them teaching in 2 primary schools in 2 very different environments. We taught them ourselves, not in Polish, I must say. We tried, but we couldn't, of course. We had this very helpful hand of Monica, our translator. And the second day, we built up a workshop. And how can you collect all what you know now about EMMCA and all what you have seen from us into your context? Now, sit down, think, write, explain, try and face your problems and build up a 2-year long time project with concrete actions, with concrete scenes, things that can happen, things that can go wrong, and how can you convince all the people you need to get involved to achieve it. That was so useful for us as well, because we had to go very deep in explaining EMMCA's model in a way that we hadn't done before, or at least I did not, because I'm not involved in all this normally way of explaining. I'm just teaching all the time, but it was so useful for me, for myself as well. We just had such a good time, and all the people involved in that meeting. I'm sure that this seed that Enrique was just saying, I just can feel it in myself. I know this was planted, that was a reality, and that we did a good job there.
And we'll be happy to see during these days also how Katowice and Aarhus Katowice and Brno and also Aarhus and all the cities took advantage of these mobilities as we did.
Thank you. Wonderful to hear you.
Thank you.
And of course it was good, and what you said is also what I've heard from the teachers. But today we also have teachers sitting among us, and I think we should ask Gunil and Kirsten if they should pin up, highlight some of the most interesting things that we learned from L'Hospitalet and what we saw down there. What would you say? What would you tell about the mobility, Kirsten? What did you bring home, and what have you been thinking of since we were there?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It was a great gift to be able to travel and to see another way of teaching. It's always, as a practitioner, you are there daily with your students and you do what you have been doing for a while, and to suddenly be taken out of it and be placed in another city and in another kind of school that's so different from ours was so interesting. And then it was a great gift to have an entire week to dive into the big school of EMMCA. That's and you could have, I could have stayed there longer because it was so interesting. And the teachers, to be able to follow them and go talk in the breaks about the project, and then go into the classes, see what is the daily practice of the teachers and the children. How do they dive into the music together? It was really interesting, and we come from a quite traditional music school, old music school here, and we also do the social change projects. But to see a school that's entirely built around the thought of social change was so interesting. And what it's 1.5 years since I was in L'Hospitalet, but I still what still fills me is the generosity that you can just, the essence is that it's so, the music is so, it's such a big gift, and to share it with as many children as possible was very, it filled my heart. And to see how the teachers daily, with joy and with playfulness, it develops a language with their children. The language of music was really wonderful. And I've brought it home with me, and I practice it every day as well here with my children. Yeah. Wonderful to hear. And if Gunhild should take over and talk about maybe the mythology things, or the things of the practitioners, what they did and what we brought home, you could probably explain what we learned.
One thing that we were very inspired by from L'Hospitalet was this team approach, that they work as a group of teachers and they have the same repertoire and methods, and they have a very common understanding of both why, how, what, and when. And it means that everyone in the room has the same understanding of what is going to happen, and it makes a very safe space for the children to join in. And it also means that they can have a very playful approach, because they have a very common structure, so they can always go back into the structure, which means that they can also interact with the children. And I think that this way of having a very playful, in the height of the children, that they can take part, is something that really inspired us here. And then I also think that because they did the first mobility, they made a mobility method, and we actually got very inspired by that as well. It was long days, and we didn't make just as long days, but we took some of the things. And for example, they had this way of when they were watching each other's teaching, they had these things that there were some things you could put in your backpack. There's some things that you can bring home and put into the washing machine, and it means that you just have to think over, maybe I can use this idea, but I need it to just do a little twirling inside my head. Or they had the bob, which was like a new idea that came up by watching someone else. And this mythology is actually one that we use now also in our organization, and I think it was a really good tool for this mobility, because it really made you immediately think, what am I going to bring, and what is too different. There was also the garbage bag. So, but I think we got a lot of inspiration from L'Hospitalet that we will use in the future.
We're happy to hear this. Yeah. We're happy to hear this.
And of course, I noticed when the teachers came home, they were so happy, they were so filled up, and they were so, it was so wonderful to see them inspired and start working again here. And I think it's changed our way of teaching. What about you, Enrique and Diana, about the visit you have made to the other schools? Well, what did you bring home? Because you are, of course, you were the lead partner. Maybe you got something on the other way. You talked about sharing, but what about you? How did you find it to go to the other places?
Look, well, for example, I didn't go to Aarhus, but I was listening very carefully of what my colleagues returned from that, about how well organized everything is in the Nordic way, that we, the southern people, always pretend to achieve, but we never reach, okay? And I was thinking, yeah, we have to improve our level of organization. We have to improve this and this and this and that. And then I went to Adelphia, and I thought we were very similar, of course, cultural-wise and other things. And we could understand easily in our languages. Even, I don't speak Italian, but it's, you know, it's close and everything. And it was so different from us. I thought it wouldn't be that different as much as it really was. It was just, for me, it was madness, it was craziness. It was like, how can you manage all this noise, all these people of any kind put together? One comes from the first time in his life, and one comes from already 5 years long, and they play together in the first day, and it sounds actually quite well. I just couldn't understand how they manage, and we kept asking Andrea. You know, you all know Andrea, no? Well, imagine a week long with Andrea just teaching how they do what they do. It was so intense, and he already gave us his energy of actually believe that it is possible. No, we tend to think to be very another word, like we think maybe this they will be able to play this, and maybe, but this is too much, no? And I saw in Adelphia that it's very, very, very possible actually to do it. You just need to do some magic, as they do. I really believed in magic when I was there. Like, this is not actually, how do you make them play in the first day like this? And they were just playing, just any kind, you know? So a bit mad and very, very positive. It filled our hearts with energy and hope.
And wonderful to hear. Enric?
Yeah, let me say, I visited Aarhus, and I think we were a very diverse team of teachers that we visited you, jazz teachers, early childhood teachers, classical string teachers, whatever. And I am actually working with toddlers and early childhood. And one of the things that I took home was this idea of working with a repertoire, sharing it with the community, a repertoire of traditional songs that we can have in a video format, in an audio format, in a storytelling format, and having all these kind of devices around the same repertoire. I will not say it's something that we already did, because suddenly in the middle of all this we had a pandemic, but it's something that we want to do. Inspired by your work, and be sure we'll be knocking your door again for asking for more information and more advice that you can share with us, because it's something we want to do. And I think it's interesting how this work not only benefits your students but your whole community, because it's a material that you shared with people beyond, in schools beyond the music school. So this is personally one of the things that inspired me and I took home.
Thank you, Enric. Yes, you're talking about what we call the song treasure box as one of the things. We were lucky to make we had a lucky punch, and now a lot of people in more or less the whole world looks at these small cartoons and sings the song. And it's wonderful, and we are now working further on that project, and we would like to share all our experiences with whoever wants to know about it, because we also find it's very interesting that you can make things for public money that goes to the public and not just to those who can find their way into music schools. And that's very important. And also what we saw in your wonderful music school, we saw the wish and the ability to share. And of course, that's even probably the most important things we learned from each other, that we should share and we should be inspired together.
Absolutely.
Kirsten, would you tell more practical about the things when you were in L'Hospitalet? I remember some parties and some get-together, and we talked how you were having fun together and what happened. Because that's also what's happened, because of course you can always share the practical things in the teaching room, but also what happens when you sit around the table and talk and get friendly and make good conversations. Is that right? I remember you talked about.
Yeah, we had good
Yeah,
conversations.
that's right. But some things are better left off the record. But,
I need to hear everything.
no, it was a week together with like-minded people from other countries is a great gift, and of course you can experience things together when you go watch the schools and do the official program. But it's also very important that we had time together just to talk and to be able to share the same problems. Sometimes we also meet problems in the teaching and in the way the projects are, and we could also share and talk about how do we get through it, and how can we move on and get further into a dream that is to share the music with a lot of children. So we had some very, very nice moments together, and we also danced. It was wonderful. But it is very important to share and to be able to share in a more relaxed way as well. And I learned a lot from my colleagues, I will always call them, in the Hospitalet. And I'm very thankful for the time I had there.
Wonderful to hear. Well, yes, it's of course it's like being on a kind of mission. The traditional teacher in Aarhus and many places is very lonely. Often they are very much alone. It's not what we see in Hospitalet, where you have this teamwork. But in normal, old-fashioned music schools in Denmark, we are very much alone with the kids. And what we learned was how important it is to be on a mission together, and how to work together on the same field, work together with the same goals, and getting inspired from each other. And of course, it was very, very interesting to see how you developed that method in Hospitalet.
Well, it has a lot to do with music itself, with practicing, with playing music together, no? As a musician, you're not alone. You're alone when you practice, but when you perform, it has a lot to do with being with people. And while music teaching, it doesn't have to be alone necessarily. It has a lot to do with being together and teaching music together and playing together. I mean, we normally are together because we are not teachers of the same instrument, no? I never see the other viola teacher of EMMCA. I have never seen his face before. But once you get into this methodology, this work team, you can never go back again to the, no? It's a very lonely job, actually, being a teacher. All what happens inside your classroom with your students, and the door is closed, no? And no one can see what you do, and you never feel the reward of your work. You feel very lonely. You feel you're doing very well your job, and nobody can see that, no? But working this way, this part of ego gets cut, and now you feel okay all the time.
And let me say that this mobility also gave us a sense of relativity of things, because you said that you were stressing our team working, and maybe sometimes we have this feeling that we are working still alone. And from your perspective, you see us working on teams very much. So it really depends on, I don't know, what you are used to and where you put your expectations, because sometimes we can be, I don't know if frustrated is a too big word, but yeah, expecting something else, and then you have a visit and somebody says, hey, your ambience here working together is wonderful, and you were not aware of that. Yeah. So I think this is interesting how an external view... Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Kirsten.
No, I was just laughing. Sorry. That's rough.
Gunnel, what did you bring home? You have told a little bit more about the book, but did you have any ideas from EMMCA with you talk much about the common repertoire and the things they were playing the same music. Have we tried to do that in our music school?
Well, we have been very inspired in the World Music Center by this team approach. And now during the COVID, we have had a chance to work more as a team and also have the same repertoire. And we also started using sound painting, actually inspired by Adelphia. And of course, also the teachers who had been both to Adelphia and Grigny came home and was very inspired. And also, as you said, with this enthusiasm that came from Adelphia, that everything could, they could make everything happen.
Yeah.
And all this we have brought home, and that we are now integrating into our own practice. But I also think you have a point of view with this, that it's very healthy to try to have this outsider view on your own practice. And I heard a lot of the teachers here that when they had the visit from all of you, they also started reflecting on their own practice in another way. And they also said that it was also this, that you start feeling proud of things that you actually didn't notice before was special that you did. And I know especially World Music Center here, who are musicians that are from all over the world, but living here in Denmark and are now teaching at the schools, they felt very proud of that we have actually made this intercultural center here in Aarhus after you came to visit. So I think there's a lot of good things about doing mobility.
And here there's a thing, Gunil, that I think we should learn and solve, because even though all this we are sharing is fantastic, it's also a pity that we need to do it internationally to learn from each other. So I think we should learn more from each other, even in our organizations. This idea of open the door of the classroom and letting other teachers come in, watch you teaching, ask questions, and ask questions that make you think. It's something that we don't do locally. And we needed to have an international network to do so, which is fantastic. But please, we should do this more locally and save space and time for doing this, for opening the doors of the classroom to our colleagues.
And also let me know what you think I'm not doing right, because maybe something happens to me sometimes. I see some teachers doing a class and I'm afraid to say something like, maybe this approach I would never do so, and having this space to talk about things without getting bothered, no, and provoking these spaces. I would love to hear from Enrique what he thinks about what I'm doing, and maybe feels embarrassing in a way, but at the other side of the thing, if you have the capability to provoke these spaces of meeting and exchange, I mean, you only live once, or you only teach once. You can't spend the whole of your life doing things in a way that you could improve so much more by your colleagues that are actually in the next classroom of you. No? I've been always very interested in this, like, all the teams I work with, like, please tell me what you think. I want to know what you really think, and try to, but it also depends on the kind of person you're working with. Some people is not interested on it, or it's also a kind of an attitude, I think, no? What do you think?
I think it's an attitude. Of course it is. And it's also from the whole profession. In a music competition has been very well known. You had to be the best to get the right places in the orchestras and get the solo places, and you're very aware of to be criticized, and you're very aware of your own. And of course we have to work with this, because when you're working in a team, as you are, as we want to do, what we want to be, it's a lot of trust. It's a lot of you have faith in each other. You're not competitions. You're not competitors.
No.
You want to make the best job at all for everybody. But it's a rather big change for many of those who had been taught since they were very, very small that they were very good and they were a kind of elite, and they should keep on working with themselves, and they should keep the secrets. So it's a big change in the music schools and in the profession. Also because we as musicians, as the professionals, often feels that we have a power. When you go into a classroom, you are the one who knows what's right. And if you go to a school, you know what's right, and the school teachers have to do what you're telling them. So we have a kind of power, and we have to leave that power, try to share it, try to bring more focus to all persons' musical abilities, not that we are the one who has the music. Everybody has the music, and that's what you're working with, and we have been very inspired of that. And I think that would be a big change for all our schools if we are able to change to that focus instead of just bringing the best kids to play the best music.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting about this. Anyone who wants to comment on this? Kirsten?
When we came home from the mobility in Hospitalet, we were 3 teachers visiting there from Aarhus, and we all work in the public schools with projects, music projects, and we were almost high on the visit, and we immediately got home and said we have to meet more often, we have to share, and we have to do more of this because it's so rewarding. And we started to meet more with all the teachers working in the public schools, and we also started with sound painting system to try to put it into all the schools, and we just got ahead in doing that kind of work, and it's so rewarding to be able to share and to work together in projects and to talk together and say, hey, what went wrong there and how can we do it, and instead of being there alone and say, it didn't work, and then you go home. But you can really reflect on your practice and make it better. And my favorite project now is the project where I work with 3 different music teachers at the same school, because all the time we reflect and we work and we make it better, and we try to evolve our practice and the projects. And I'm very thankful for seeing your kind of teamwork and collaboration and the synergy that it really makes the school so good. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. We are so happy to hear this.
I don't feel responsible. When I arrived, it was already there. No, but it's very nice to hear. It's not that I have the knowledge and I give the knowledge to you. It's you and I against the lack of knowledge. No, it's let's work together and we put it back. It's a change of perspective. It's the same with social cohesion. It's not I come here to save you from anything. We just share some good space here with a healthy environment and a common objective, a common achievement together, and you feel empowered by it. It's not about, your challenges are not as big as it can happen. No.
Wonderful to hear, and I'm lucky to know that we will continue collaborating. But as you said, Henrik, the whole idea could develop inside the organizations if we dare to go and open the door and share. But it's probably easier to go abroad, go to another school, instead of looking inside your own school. So thank you for the very inspiring talk here. I think we move on to the next program part called Demos and Pilots. I'm not sure what's going to happen now, but I know we have some new persons coming in. I want to thank Diana and Henrik for the very interesting speak, and to Gunilla and Kirsten for the response. Wonderful. And I think if you haven't been to this mobility visits, you're getting very inspired of hearing what's happening there. And I would love that everybody could have a mobility visit at least once a year. It could be fantastic. We have to get some more money for this. All right. I think we should move on to the demos and pilots. Is that right? The time is a little break now. Yes, we should have a little break. How many minutes? 5 minutes. We stretch our legs and come back in 5 minutes. Is that all right?
All right.
All right. Thank you for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
same time? Okay. I have a question. When we finish speaking, should we like turn off the cameras and it's gonna be time for Adelphia, or how it's?
I think we are staying here the whole session.
Hello again, and welcome back. Before the break, we had a wonderful talk with some of the teachers who took part in the mobility visits, and it was very inspiring. And now we're going further on to the demos and pilots, and we have two projects we want to introduce. The first one is from Brno, and the next one is from Adelphia. First, I want to invite Pavla and Andrea from Brno to tell us about their project. I think they have a PowerPoint they want to show us, and the screen is yours. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pavla Lukasheva. I'm from Brno City Municipality, and me and my colleague Andrea would like to share with you this exciting journey we took when joining the URBACT OnStage network. Do you see the presentation? Okay, so first some basic facts about Brno. Brno is the second largest city in the Czech Republic with about 400,000 inhabitants. We are economic, scientific and cultural center with low unemployment rate, low poverty, with high school attainment. We have quite homogeneous population. However, we identified about 16 areas within the city with risk of social exclusion, which is populated mostly by Roma people. At the same time, in the Czech Republic, there is a big tradition of so-called state basic arts school, which offer quite high quality music education at affordable rates. As you can see, it's about 80 euros per semester, and it is possible to enroll even if you maybe are coming from the socially advantaged areas. At the same time, in the area, there is quite a lot of non-profits and other organizations which already provide culture and educational programs for the community. However, the city implemented the strategies. We have a social strategy, we have cultural strategy. The implementation is maybe not so fast, not so good as we would imagine. So eventually we decided that the good practice from Hospitalet would be a great idea for us to implement. After learning what the good practice is, we decided what our goals would be for the next 2 years. First, to learn the new methodology of group music teaching, which is almost unknown here. As I mentioned previously, the basic art schools, the teaching is always one-to-one, and the idea of a group teaching is something so strange for our teachers. Then we wanted to implement the methodology into the primary schools in the areas of risk of social exclusions, and to start some music programs there. We were also thinking about some community activities. We had in mind to start some choir or maybe a band. And all this would be somehow framed by integrating the on-stage projects into action plans of Brno strategy and Brno cultural strategy. And what we did and how things went, I will give floor to my colleague Andrea.
Hello, everybody. Can you see me? I'm not sure. Yes, okay. My name is Andrea Barikmenova, and I am the ULG coordinator for the project OnStage. So as Pavla has already mentioned, there is a really long tradition of state basic music school, but this concept is completely different from the one that good practice shows us. So the lessons are individually based, and they shall prepare students for secondary music education if they want to follow it. And these lessons are therefore oriented to reach some kind of excellence, and there is certain exclusivity connected to it. And the idea of having group music lessons and actually use the music as a tool to somehow enhance social cohesion, it's something for us really, really unknown. So in this way, we can say that city of Brno is a real pioneer in trying to implement this kind of practice into an urban strategy. So for Brno, the project on stage was a lot about to understand how the group music methodology actually works. And we decided to somehow adapt the good practice of l'Hospitalet, and especially the program Tandem. In our version, the group music lessons take place in the building of the primary schools that are located in the area of risk of social exclusion, and they became a part of an afternoon curricula. They are tuition free, and the instruments are provided for the lessons. So this is a kind of like tailor-suited program for a group of children that would probably wouldn't enroll in these traditional music programs that exist in the Czech Republic. So in the picture you can see actually our first program that started in September 2019, and it has been so far successful. Probably. Okay. A big challenge for us was to find suitable teachers for the programs, since there is no theoretical base here in the Czech Republic, basically. So our teachers, they had to really jump into a completely different style of teaching that they actually experienced from their time of studies. So in this way, the teachers' mobilities, as it was also mentioned in the previous session, they were really, really crucial for our teachers. So they could get the deeper feeling about how this whole way of teaching, how it works, what is it about. Probably. Okay, but of course, as for everybody, as I do believe, so the biggest challenge became the pandemic of COVID-19. Yeah, so in Czech, we had a too long confinement, which allowed our programs to run in the normal settings only for a few months in the 2 years of the project. Some of the programs changed into an online platform and continued in some limited way, and others, they had to be interrupted completely. In the last slide, there are a few numbers how the project looks after the 2 years of its existence. So as you can see, all the programs, they found success with the students, and the teachers got very enthusiastic about it. As an example, I can say our guitar program, our second program that we started, the first year, which started in January 2020 and continued till the summer with a few months online, they were 9 children. But the next semester, in September 2020, actually 61 people were interested in the program. Of course, we weren't able to provide such extended lessons of guitar, but somehow our two teachers started to teach 39 children till December 2021, when again the second pandemic started and it had to go online. So I would like to say that we can see that for Brno OnStage it's a project that is definitely meaningful, and that we are very happy that we could be a part of it, and we are very glad that we can continue in our new national network that is being created right now. So I think that's all from me, and I'll ask the technician if he can play a short video. It's a vox pop of our teachers from the guitar programs, and they basically share their experience with the new methodology, what they think about it and how they feel about it. So thank you.
Ale řekl bych, že ta skupinová výuka má jednu velikánskou výhodu oproti té individuálce, že ty děti se sledují jeden druhého, že se podporují a že můžeme okamžitě při sebemenším nácviku něčeho využít souhru. A zjistil jsem, to jsem opravdu předtím nějak mě to nedocházelo, že toto je na tom nejvíc baví. Nejenom, že oni sami se něco naučí, ale že to hnedka můžou s někým vyzkoušet a že si vlastně hrají. Oni se učí v té skupinové výuce, ale oni si neuvědomují, že se učí. A v tomto vidím asi ten největší přínos. Je úžasné vidět, s jakým velkým zájmem překonávají sami sebe. Protože tady se nejedná jenom o tu muziku, ale jedná se o to, že oni se učí sebedisciplíně. Oni se učí určité dovednosti, které potom budou moci aplikovat v dalším životě, třeba ve svém povolání, nebo já nevím v čem. No a další důležitou dovedností, které si zde děti vlastně osvojují, je být v kolektivu. Nějakým způsobem se socializovat, zvykat si na sebe, určitá interakce. Jo? Takže já si myslím, tam je krásné sledovat, jak děti asi zřejmě různých sociálních vrstev, jak jsou spolu a vůbec nemají žádný problém. Situace, ve které se nacházíme nyní, je vlastně ovlivněna pandemií, že to znamená, že projekt tak, jak byl původně zamýšlen a spuštěn, naštěstí spuštěn, tak nemůže pokračovat v této podobě. Je to velmi těžké, my jsme stáli před určitým rozhodnutím, jestli nestopnout ten projekt a nepočkat, až to přejde, ale po určité zkušenosti i z loňského roku jsme se rozhodli, že budeme pokračovat alespoň online. Učíme dva, já a Jose, který je vlastně ze Španělska, nemluví úplně dobře česky, nicméně jsme ve vzájemném respektu se velice dobře doplňujeme, takže opravdu jsem rád, že je to zrovna on, ze kterým můžu učit.
One of the best surprises I had, it was me and my colleague went sent to France to see how the project is working there for 10 years already, and how is group teaching in France, in Paris. Sometimes it's unbelievable how without words we can communicate and learn an instrument without exchanging any words. Sometimes I would like to try not to speak at all in the whole hour, just music. I think there is no barriers about language.
Myslím si, že bych tady ten projekt doporučila hodně dětskám, který mají rádi hudbu a zpívání, že je to uklidňující, že je to fajn.
Takže já si myslím, že toto je projekt, který má mnohem širší dosah, než na první pohled vypadá, že je to nějaké brnkání na kytaru. Je to mnohem víc.
thank you for the presentation to Paula and Andrea. It was nice to see the things you have been doing in Brno, and now we're looking forward to hear more from Italy. I want to welcome Francesca Schiavone and Maria Celeste Fasano, who has done some very nice observations about the teaching and the way you work in Adelphia. So welcome to you, and the screen is yours.
Thank you, Lars, for your introductions. Thank you to the colleagues for the words about the experience done in Adelphia during the Mobility for Educators. I'm Francesca Schiavone, and I'm here as a referent for the municipality of Adelphia and the ULG coordinator. Today, I'm glad to introduce you Maria Celeste Fasano as coordinator of demo action, implementing the framework of the adaptation and the use of the good practice from l'Hospitalet de URBACT. Maria Celeste is a psychologist, musician, and currently she is a postdoc research at the Department of Psychology of the University of Aarhus in Denmark. Now, what about our demo action? The main element in Adelphia journey in the framework of OnStage, the main element to use from the good practice from the Municipalidad of l'Hospitalet is including the music as a tool to use in the framework of our local social policy to work with the children with special needs in education. Now, in order to have numbers and data to prove that the music could be really improve our social policy, together with Maria Celeste, we involved local schools and local association in a pilot research, aiming to demonstrate that music training can improve the quality of life of children with special needs. Today, we will present the results of this research, and through these results, we are validating the experience to our regional institution and ask them to invest to this very innovative social policy. So now, Celeste, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Francesca. Yes, so as Francesca said, I will introduce you the preliminary results of our two pilot study that we did for looking at the effect of orchestral music training in children with ADHD or autism. So I will first present the first pilot, focus more on children with ADHD, and then afterwards on the pilot, focus on children with autism. So the stakeholders that were involved for this pilot study, apart from the research team, were the municipality of Adelphia, in particular the Department of Social Policy, the Association Musica and Gioco, that is a music association, the one that provided the music training to the children, and then the school Istituto Comprensivo Moro Falcone and the Association ASFA for parents of children with autism that were very important for the recruitment phase where we need to recruit children. So this is the research team I had the pleasure and the honor to have on board for these two pilots. So the pilots were supported by the Department of Psychology of Aarhus University, the Department of Psychology of University of Bari, and also with the collaboration of the Department of Psychiatry of the University of Oxford. So let's start from the first pilot focused on the children with ADHD. We can say that this first pilot was a bit like the evolution of a study that we had already published in Frontiers in Psychology in 2018, where we look at the effect of a short-term orchestral music training on hyperactivity and inhibitory control. So in this case, we wanted to look at the effect of music training that I'm sure you are familiar with already, that is Musica and Gioco. And this is a music training that is inspired by L system approach. And so it's an adaptation to the environment, the social environment of our region, Apulia region in Italy. So what we did here was to recruit 113 children, and we divided them in a music group and a control group. So a music group that would attend the music training, and the control group that didn't have the music lessons. And then what we did was to administer psychological tests and questionnaires before and after these 3 months of music training. So one of the main results was related to the inhibitory control. So here in light blue, you can see the scoring that are related to the pre-measurement, and in red, you can see the scoring related to the post-measurement, so after the music training. Here we have the control group, and here we have the music group. So what we found was a significant increase, a significant improvement in a way, regarding the inhibitory control in the music group. And for inhibitory control, I mean the ability to inhibit impulses, so to control impulses. Moreover, another interesting result was related to the levels of hyperactivity and impulsivity. So what we found? In this case, we found that in the control group, there was an increase of the levels of hyperactivity and impulsivity between the pre and post measurements. So there was a sort of worsening, we can say. That was not found, though, in a music group that, on the contrary, went through the music training, and so 3 months of interacting and with all the regulatory activities that are included in an orchestral music training, such as, for example, the discipline to sit patiently in silence for the entire execution of the piece and to wait for your turn, and so on. So from these results, we could say that we can say that these results suggested that all the regulatory activities required by the orchestral music training, together, of course, with the engagement that the innovative approach was able to promote and the pleasure of music per se, may have played a key role in modulating the levels of hyperactivity in the children. So this pilot study, as I was mentioning before, is a sort of evolution of this study, where we wanted to look this time at the clinical population. We wanted to look at the effect of this orchestral music training in children with a diagnosis of ADHD. For this study, it was very difficult for us to recruit children, but we were able to recruit 7 children. One of them couldn't attend the post-measurements, unfortunately. So we recruited a total of 6 children that we divided in 2 groups, experimental group and control group. Indeed, as you can imagine, during this year, like the pandemic has strongly affected the project, of course, and therefore we needed to adapt the experimental design, of course, of this situation, this complex situation. Therefore, we decided to calculate the average number of lessons that the children attended, and then to divide the children in experimental group and control group, depending on the number of lessons that they attended. So the children that attended a number above average of lessons was recognized as a part of a music group, so the experimental group. While in the control group, we had all the children that attended 0 lessons or very few lessons. So before and after the 1 year pause during which there will be the music training, we administered psychological tests and questionnaires. So in December 2019 and November 2020. Now, of course, as I said, the pandemic really affected, of course, the training. So instead of 1 year of training, we can say it was around 6 months of training. Some of the psychological tests and questionnaires that we used for this pilot were measuring the levels of hyperactivity and attention, inhibitory control, quality of life, socioeconomic status, and motivation. And I will focus in this presentation only on this. So the preliminary analysis, the pre-test, highlighted the significant differences at the pre-test for the socioeconomic status and for the motivation. What does that mean in particular? Regarding the socioeconomic status, we saw that it was lower in the family of the children that attended the music lessons as compared to the control group. And regarding the motivation, we found that the levels of demotivation were significantly higher in the children that were part of the control group. So the children that decided not to attend the lessons. Therefore, we wanted to calculate if there was a correlation between the socioeconomic status and the demotivation. And indeed, we found a significant positive correlation, as you can see here. So the higher was the socioeconomic status of the family, the higher was the degree of demotivation of children to participate to the music group. So, and this correlation can maybe suggest that there is a higher motivation or interest to participate to a free music training for the families with, of course, less economic possibilities. So families that would not have access otherwise to similar extracurricular training. Now, regarding the ADHD symptoms, here in light blue, you can see the control group. So this is these are the scoring related to the control group, while in green, this is referring to the experimental group. So the group of children that had the music training. So we found that the levels of inattention were increasing between the pre and post measurement. And this increase, like this worsening in a way, was not found in the music group. A similar trend was found for the hyperactivity impulsivity. So it was there was an increase of hyperactivity impulsivity in the children that didn't attend the music course, while there was not this worsening in the music group, so the experimental group. And these results really replicate the results of our previous study that I mentioned before, suggesting now that these the regulatory activities that are included in orchestral music training or group music training may have had a key role for these results. We also found interesting results related to the quality of life, in particular related to the quality of the family interaction. So as you can see here in the graph, we found a significant interaction grouped by time, in the sense that there was an increase of rating, like an improvement of the quality of family interaction in the music group, in the experimental group, while there was a decrease of scoring related to the quality of family interaction in the control group. And here we can maybe understand from these results, they can suggest that maybe with the participation to a music training with other children and families, and also the possibility for them to familiarize with a protected social environment that was promoting positive interaction, may have an impact on this. But let's see now the second study. The second study was focused on children with autism, as I said before. So just a brief introduction. We know that autism is a neurodevelopmental condition characterized by social communication difficulties. And in the last decade, few studies have started investigating whether the processes activated during musical activities are able to help children diagnosed with autism to develop social and communication skills. However, the treatments adopted in most of this study include music therapy sessions aimed exclusively at children diagnosed with autism. Furthermore, such programs are often expensive and therefore difficult to be implemented in the schools. So in this case, we wanted to look at the effect of this training, Musica in Gioco, that is a training that is inclusive, therefore involving not only children with a diagnosis, but also with a diagnosis, but also children with like a healthy children without diagnosis. And in this case, we involved 18 children. And as we did for the other pilot study, we divided them in experimental group or control group, depending on the number of lessons that they attended. Also here we had, they were administered psychological tests and questionnaires in December 2018 and November 2020. And there was a training of around 6 months because of the pandemic. Some of the psychological tests and questionnaires that we used were measuring the levels of communication and activity of daily living. And what we found was that, so first of all, we found a trend of significance for the expression, in the sense that, as you can see in the graph, there was an increase of the levels of expression in the experimental group, not found in the control group. And also a similar trend was found in regarding the self-sufficiency. As you can see, there was an increase in terms of self-sufficiency in the music group. So what are the conclusions of this pilot study? we can say that the results observed in these two pilot studies with a very small sample are promising for the future implementation of this protocol in two randomized controlled trial studies with larger samples, both of children with ADHD and autism. These effects, we have to mention, they existed even in spite of the world pandemic situation that, as you can imagine, impacted really heavily on the projects for many reasons. So first of all, of course, the number of lessons was drastically reduced, and also the teachers needed to reorganize a bit the setting of the music lessons in order to conform to the rules imposed by the World Health Organization. And so there were less children in the class, more distance between them, they were wearing a mask and so on. Second of all, unfortunately, they couldn't participate to the concert, the big concert, and this is one of the essential parts actually of this music training, because it represents an occasion for the children to really experience being part of an orchestra. And also, we cannot forget, about the inevitable impact that this pandemic might have had on the mental state of the participants. However, the engaging musical activities proposed by the music teachers, and also their adaptation to the different needs and the music competencies of the children, together with the pleasurable experience of music per se that I was mentioning before, may have played a crucial role in producing a modulatory effect on the levels of hyperactivity, inattention, and expression in the children. So why this is important? This is important because this could open the door to a new and more engaging way to train these psychological functions. So compared to treatments focused on the enhancement of specific skills that children labeled as ADHD or autistic are lacking, including music programs like this may offer the children the possibility to experience a new social role, finally identifying themselves as musicians instead of children with problematic behaviors. So this was the presentation, and I want to take advantage to thank one more time Francesca that gave me the possibility of making these pilots happening. And if you have any question, I will be very happy to try to answer. Thank you.
Thank you for this interesting part, Maria Celeste. It was very interesting, and I am so happy to hear that the research can help a lot of children who really suffer of ADHD, and we know in Denmark the number is increasing very much these days. So of course, if we can help them with music, it's very, very powerful and interesting for us. Yeah. Francesca, do you want to add some comments to this?
Yes, Lars, I want to report that about 2 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to share the results of this research with the alderman, the assessor of Regione Puglia, our regional institution, to share the results of this research. He now is very engaged in managing the pandemic COVID, but he was very interested to listen the relation from Maria Celeste, and he is asking us to go in deep to this research, to continue this pilot research, because for the pandemic situation, the numbers of children involved in the research are not so high. So we need to continue in this very right direction, and as Municipality of Adelphi, we have applied to have further financement to continue this path. And but I think we are in the right, we are following the right way to arrive to include this very innovative tool that is music training in our social policy to manage the children with special needs.
It's wonderful to hear, Francesca, and congratulations with the support from the politicians. Of course, you have Andrea, and this is also a very personal kind of mission for Andrea to work with this, and we were very inspired to see him he's a magician with the kids, and we could really learn a lot from him. His spontaneous way of dealing with the kids is fantastic. And of course, we need to have more of this teachers maybe trained by Andrea, or have some special skills that we can get from you. So I hope we can continue the collaboration, because we need to focus on this, because as we know, the number of kids dealing with the troubles of the ADHD is increasing enormous these days. So let's focus on that, and I hope you can share all the experiences and all the results you get from the research. I'm lucky to see that you are connected to Aarhus University.
Yes.
Wonderful, Maria Celeste. So we can probably have some local also engagement here, because we really want to have some strong arguments.
That would be really great.
We will work together, I'm sure. And of course, we also, that Kirsten and Gunhild knows that, we work in the field of all kids, but we haven't had any special missions or some projects going directly to the ADHD kids, but we will try to do that.
Yeah.
Now I can see that a lot of people coming up on the screen. Is wonderful. So if anybody wants to comment on this, you're very welcome to give your impressions of what we have heard here, because this is very special.
And Adelphia, for the great job you share. I'm happy to see that these different seeds are flourishing in different cities, and I hope we helped somehow to all this happening in the different cities. I think it's interesting, and now gathering all the reflections of all the presentations this morning, how we are focusing on the how. We were talking yesterday with Professor Anne Bamford about how to do these things, and also the research and the starting up experiences in Brno. In these moments, the how you do the things and how the practitioners do the things matter a lot, because as Professor Anne Bamford was sharing yesterday, even doing music with children, it somehow, if you don't do it the right way, it can have negative impacts too, or at least not being worthy enough for the good benefits Maria Celeste was sharing now. So I think it's important how it had a focus on the how, research-based and experience-based and team-working-based. So I think this is kind of the linking element of all the presentations this morning.
If I can say something, because I completely agree, and I think there is a bit of a gap in literature in this sense, in the sense that very often you can find research like that try to look at the effect of music training in general. But it's important to know which music training we are talking about, because it's that makes the difference in a way. So I think it's very important a network between teachers that are there, that are on the field with the children, and researchers, because can allow us to find much more interesting results that we could share.
Yeah, there's like key elements, for example, like, is it collective? Is it in group or not? Is it creative or not? Is it connected with the community's life or not? Is it joyful or playful? So these kinds of questions really give different results on your music training practices.
Exactly. It could also help us to improve more and more and more the future music training. Because if we can understand that one way of doing is better than another, then we can implement it. And so we can arrive to, we can help more these children in a way.
And my impression is also that what is good for the kids with disabilities or with the ADHD is also good for normal kids. It's probably even the same thing. You get the same results with normal kids, and it's very important also to remember that if we make the right frame set and do the right things, it helps everybody to feel included and being seen and to improve their human skills. So it's interesting, very interesting. And of course, it's also very interesting to keep on working on the field of the kids who really are not having trouble being in the society or being in the groups. So it's very important to include them. But we also have to include all the normal kids, because they all want to be a part of a group or be part of an orchestra. So it's interesting. Yes.
And also, if I can say, to include both children with some problems and children with not, also help the children with problems not feel marginalized. So it's very important actually to provide a music training that involves both categories. I agree.
And I know that we in Aarhus have tried to make some rules or some commitments or things that we would like to share with everybody who wants to work on a special fields in this way of teaching with kids who has these troubles. And I know Gunnel would probably like to tell us a little bit about that. We call it MUST, because it's something to do with NEST, which is a special way of working with kids with autism.
Yes, in our URBACT local group, we have been working together with the Children and Youth Department, and they have transferred from New York a kind of called NEST. And within NEST, they use certain principles. For example, they use visualizing. So all the structures, they have visualizing of the program of the day. They use different voice scales. So every child can see, are we talking quietly now, or is it space for a little bit more high voice? They also use this that they call self-talk, which means that while teaching, they explain what is going on in the room. So both what they themselves wants to tell, but also if someone in the group are reacting, they say, okay, I can see here that this child is having a reaction on this, and it might be because, and then, so everything is spoken out. And we have been very inspired by them, and we have then combined NEST with music and called it MUST. So all our teaching here in Denmark and from the music school going out into the public school should be based on these principles.
Thank you. And that's also what we have got from the URBACT project, working with all of you, working with the wonderful people. We now see Enric and we see Diana from L'Hospitalet on the screen, and we also have Gunnel and Kirsten. I forgot to introduce you again, but now you know who's on the screen. And I can see all persons more or less being part of the project. So I hope everybody feels comfortable. And we have the opportunity to have questions from all the people watching this. And you're welcome to write a question if you see it on the web, or we could also have probably a small conclusion from here. We have 5 minutes left of the program, so if somebody wants to add something, maybe you could talk a little bit about the future, Enric and Francesca. What do we see in the future coming up?
Go ahead, Francesca.
Does it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Improvisation. Okay. Yes, what about the future? We are going on together with the municipality of Adelphia with a real advocacy and lobbying action to our metropolitan city and to our region in order to push them to invest in this direction. That is not only for added budget, it's for interest, energy, human resources, because we believe, really believe that the music could contribute to improve the quality of life of children and of the community that is growing up the children, the education community. Otherwise, we are very engaged to apply for other calls, other future projects that will give us the opportunity to continue the European exchange we have started in the framework of OnStage project, and to continue to develop the research, the pilot research started together with Maria Celeste.
Wonderful. And what about the things going on in Valongo? How is the future for your project, Paula?
Well, as Andrea mentioned, we are proud to be chosen for the National Practice Transfer Initiative. So within the next 2 years, we will be transferring the good practice we implemented from Hospitalet to other 7 cities from Czech and Slovak Republic. So it's going to be very exciting for us, and we still hope that our friends from Hospitalet could be somehow still part of it.
Wonderful,
We'll be happy
congratulations.
to help you as a, I'm sure you will be a loyal and proud messenger of all this work that we are sharing these days, and I'm happy that you can do it in your own country and count on us on whatever we can help on for it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And what about Aarhus, Gunil? Could you tell a little bit about the future? What are we working on?
In Aarhus, we did the demo action Message to the Future, which has been focusing on the school starters and making a playful approach, just like L'Hospitalet. And it's integrating all the different art forms, also because inspired by the Nest and the autism projects that we have learned that it is a good way to structure. So we have been lucky that the municipal is supporting this development for the next 4 years.
It seems that the seed that was put in the soil in L'Hospitalet now is growing all over Europe. It's fantastic. And that was, well, mainly the reason that EU wanted to support the project OnStage. So we have a good opportunity here to thank the EU Commission to spare money for us, and we hope that we could collaborate with some EU money in one or another way the coming years. It would be wonderful to keep this friendship, because we have also been friends, and now we are on a mission together. So it's so wonderful to hope and to see what can be the future for all of us, and to follow the projects around. It's very interesting. I really congratulate everybody with what you have achieved with this beautiful project. I think we're about to end this session and go further to meet Valongo OnStage. So I hope they're ready in Valongo, and I want to thank all of the participants for this morning. It was wonderful to hear all the beautiful statements, and I feel very inspired, and I really appreciate to know all of you, and I look forward to see you everybody in real life again. So thank you for now.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Lars. Thank you.
Yeah.
What a fantastic voice.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, yes.
Definitely.
Let's spend time. We don't need a location. We just need to spend time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.